Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third session for today. How has it been so far? Welcome, Comfort, Luwatosin, Omotola Precious. How has it been? Thank you for joining us. Omotola, you're welcome. I remember the name from the previous session. Thank you. I'm loving every bit of it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Precious, you're welcome. Samuel, you're welcome. Thank you all for joining. You're amazing as well. Thank you. Ajoke, you're welcome. To those joining on YouTube, you're welcome as well. Thank you for joining. It's great having you all here. Just give a few more minutes to those that are just logging on. We'll be looking at employee experience and the evolution of work for this session to be taken by Patrick. I'll be introducing him shortly and then we'll jump right in. It's been a very long weekend, but I trust that we've all gotten great value from this. Thank you for spending your time with us. We really appreciate you. Let me see. Adenike, you're welcome. Ashetu, you're welcome. Okay, I see some familiar names from the previous session as well. Eminamo, you're welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Okay, let me just reiterate this because I think there might be some confusion. So it is this program is free to join, it's free for everyone to access. So if you know anyone that this might benefit, you can share the Zoom link or the YouTube link with them for them to join us. Is when you need the additional benefits of the recertification or certification of completion or access to the replace. That's when you need to pay a fee. But to learn, to join us live and learn from these great speakers, I must say, we went quite some length to get some of these people. Like the previous speaker, he alluded to it, how we reached out to him on LinkedIn. We've never met before, it was just on LinkedIn, all the way from Canada. He shared from his wealth of experience. So we wouldn't want to put this together and then nobody is just in now. So as many people as possible that can join, you can share the Zoom link with them or the YouTube link. If there's anyone that you know that will benefit from this, kindly do that now. You can share it for them to join this session. But if they need those other benefits, like I mentioned earlier, then you can send them the link to register as well, and then we'll send them the details about all that. But let's all gather here. Let's learn. It's free. Yes, so they need to register for the other so that we can have their details if they need the other benefits of the certification credit for their HRCI certification or a certificate of completion or access to the webinar. All the other benefits that come at a fee. Anyways, you need to register for that. But to attend these sessions and to just learn from these great speakers is absolutely free. So you can share the Zoom link. I think we'll soon, maybe in subsequent sessions, we might max out our Zoom capacity. So if they can't join Zoom, they can join on YouTube as well. So you can share those links with your friends and colleagues that might benefit from this. And then let's just see how we can learn from here and there to try and make our organizations more resilient and not just survive these times, but thrive. Because I must tell you, as challenging as these times are, there are also growth opportunities for every organization. So that's why we put together this, for us to have conversations around this, covering all the HR functions to see how we can still thrive in these interesting times. So thank you again for joining. Adedoyin, Afolake, Asukwo, Efyong, Bim, SB. Thank you all for joining. Like we did in the second session, let's know where you're joining from. Is there scholarship in? I didn't see that. Is there scholarship and outcome? Scholarship for what? Okay, so there's what we have is a 40% discount for those who want to take our HRCI exam preparatory class after this program. So there's a 40% discount if that's what you meant by scholarship. So if you fall into categories of those that don't hold any HRCI certification, okay. All right. Thank you for joining Bim from Lagos. Afolake, thank you for joining from Sangota. Okay. Stella from Abuja, thank you for joining. Anyone from outside Nigeria? I think, okay, Adedoyin from Lagos, thank you. We need to be mindful that we are not speaking to only Nigerians, so people from outside the country are registered for this program as well. So it's great to have you all here. Thank you, Asuko, joining from Lagos. All right. Quickly, let me introduce the speaker for today. Eunice, thank you for joining from Lagos. So let's meet our speaker for today, Patrick. Patrick is an experienced human resource professional, consummate in the areas of talent management and organizational development. He has proven experience and competence in integrated talent management, HR analytics, HRS management, HR labor, and regulatory compliance, amongst others. He garnered his educational qualifications from the Lagos State University with an LLB in law, and is currently running a specialist MBA in human resource management. He's a senior professional in human resources, SPHRI, an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management in Nigeria, CIPM, a Chartered Human Resource Manager, CHRM, a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators of Nigeria, and also a member of the Institute of Administrators and Researchers of Nigeria. So this is a very chartered speaker. There are many chartered associations there. He practiced his trade as a professional across various industries, from non-profits, real estate, manufacturing, financial services, and marine. Patrick is currently the head human resources at Tenax Marine Limited, which sees him develop, implement, and manage HR programs in the areas of HR and corporate strategy, training and development, employee relations, compensation and benefits, and organizational development. Patrick is a seasoned training facilitator for SPHRI, PHRI, CIPM, and a host of other open HR trainings and workshops. He's also a member of our faculty at Adinam Consulting. He devotes his leisure time to reading, movies, and is an avid sport enthusiast. He will be speaking on employee experience and the evolution of work at the tHRive conference. So with a big warm welcome, let's welcome Patrick to tHRive 2020. Let me see your applause. Let me see the virtual standing ovation. Welcome, Patrick.
Wow, Jide, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. But see, the truth is, when I hear those kind of introductions, it gives me some concern, because you set the bar, for me, you set the bar really, really high. And then I now have the task of living up to the hype that you've created around. So Jide, thank you very much for setting this bar very high. I hope I live up to the hype.
Sure.
Once again, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure and a privilege. We'll be having a very, very interesting topic, employee experience and the evolution of work. For me personally, this is a very, very interesting topic. When I've had different conversations with professionals, from the COVID lockdown up until present, there's one recurring theme, that's punctuated all of my conversations, and that's the fact that the game has changed. And due to the fact that the game has changed, I keep on saying, and I'm not going to stop saying it, is we cannot pour old wine, or rather new wine, in old wineskins. Because the game has changed, we need to change our approach to the game. We cannot play the same game. I mean, you can't play the same game with different sets of rules. So the rules of the game have changed. We need to change our strategy. We need to change our approach. And around this particular topic of employee experience, I mean, the rules of the game have changed as a whole. So it's really going to be a very, very interesting conversation that I'm very, very sure we're all going to find good value for our time. So Jide, do I have permission to share my screen now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Great. All right. So before we dive into this discussion, I must say this. This is a caveat before we start this discussion. In order for any of us to fully appreciate this discussion, we need to think as futurists. For those of us who are just hearing that term for the first time, a futurist is someone who ponders on the possibilities available in the future and how to take advantage of those opportunities right here in the present. Because a lot of what we're talking about here, what we're going to discuss, may not be 100% immediately applicable. But if you think as a futurist, this change, I mean, is knocking on our doorsteps. The full impact of these changes that we're discussing today may not be immediately applicable, especially for those of us here in Nigeria. Nigeria is a couple of paces behind, the more advanced nations or industries. So the impact of change is a bit slower felt, here in Nigeria. However, it doesn't mean because we are here in Nigeria, it doesn't mean we are insulated from these changes that are set to take place. So like I said, in order for us to appreciate the full length of this discussion, we need to have our futurist caps on and look for some of these aspects of this discussion that will be immediately applicable, and the other aspects of this discussion that will be applicable in the short to medium term. All right. So that much said, we'll dive into it. Okay, Comfort, is my mic better now? Comforts mentioned that my mic was a bit low. I hope it's better now. All right, great. So all right, thank you. So we'll be talking, this is a brief overview of what our discussion will be all about. So first of all, before we dive into, so the discussion is divided into two. The first part of the discussion will talk about work, the evolution of work, and then second part will talk about the evolution of employee experience. Then thirdly, we're going to tie this evolution of work and the evolution of employee experience, and we're going to come up with some action plan, to guide us in the new frontier that has presented itself. So we'll start off with the evolution of work. We'll take a look at the history of work, where we are with work, where we're going to, the future of work. And based on this understanding, we'll talk about the new realities of work. Then we dive into employee experience, just to have a common understanding of what employee experience is, to understand the evolution that has taken place as a result of the evolution of work. What has now changed in employee experience, how we can, look how we can evolve in our own approach to employee experience, and then we'll look at the future. So apart from what has happened now, what's next? What's next in employee experience? And we'll wrap it up with the next evolution. So without much ado, we'll look at the evolution of work. So without boring us, so much about history, but one thing we need to understand is prior to the Industrial Revolution, work was basically craftsmanship in nature. Craftsmanship in nature, meaning that the worker was responsible for the entire end-to-end process of production. So predominantly, the occupation then was farming, hunting. So you had one worker who was responsible for sowing, weeding, reaping, cleaning, and every other aspect of production. So, I mean, that was where the terminology jack of all trades or jack of all, that was the predominant norm back then. Every worker was really a jack of all. Again, work was done, based on family members. It was the family unit was really the work unit back then. So it's either work was done either by family members or slaves. Reason why we're saying this is because we need to appreciate where we're coming from, in order to fully appreciate where we are and, project where we're going to. Work roles were really allocated based on gender. So you had certain jobs that were predominantly reserved for men, and you had other roles that were predominantly reserved for women. You had work roles that were assigned based on age. So as a child, these are the kind of jobs you can do. As a young adult, these are the kind of jobs you could do. As a full-grown adults, these are the kind of jobs you can do. And then for the matured and the elderly ones, there are certain jobs that were strictly reserved for them. Again, based on race. So, I mean, like I said earlier on, slavery was really largely predominant during that era. So there were certain jobs that you, as if you're not a member of again, also for those that live in a society, in caste society. So based on whatever caste you are born, those born in the bourgeoisie caste or the royal caste, they were privileged to have certain jobs. And those who were born in the lower caste, were relegated to, other jobs as well. That's really where we're coming from. However, thank goodness we are no longer in that era. Now, the Industrial Revolution really changed the entire conception of work. Glass ceilings are broken. Women are no longer relegated to certain jobs, certain roles. Women have found themselves, in industries and job functions that were, historically reserved for the men. Women have broken those traditional expectations of, what they should do, sit down at home while the man goes out there, to be the breadwinner. Now you have women that are, equal breadwinners or even not superior breadwinners in the home. So this has ushered in a new era of the craftsmanship era is a thing of the past. This is the era of specialization. As production increased, manufacturers realized that, look, job roles could be, grouped into families. So this was where the concept of division of labor came in. That gave birth to specialization. And that has, now given birth to what is now known as automation, which we'll discuss much later. So, slavery was abolished. That gave birth to, social contracts. Now workers are free to choose whatever job they want to do. So that's looking back. Now let's look at the future. This particular segment, the future of work, we're going to break this future of work into 3 W's. What are the 3 W's? First of all, we'll look at the future of work, the future of the workforce, and the future of the workplace. I repeat, we'll look at the future of work, the future of the workforce, the future of the workplace. These 3 headings will form the lens with which we'll look at the broad overarching future of work. So starting with work itself, we've looked at what work was and what work is. What is the future of work? According to the World Economic Forum, right? It is predicted that between 2020 and 2025, over the next 5 years, the division of labor between man and machines is expected to shift much heavier in favor of machines, especially for repetitive and routine tasks. Currently in America, you have 65% of the jobs in organizations being done by human beings. It's predicted that in the next 5 years, by 2025, 55% of jobs will be done by machines, whilst only 45% of jobs in organizations will be done by human beings. Now, this shift is going to be, is predicted to that an upward of 14% of jobs as we know it today will be eliminated, while 32% of today's jobs would have radically changed. That means the way jobs are done, even those jobs that survive, the nature and the modus operandi of those jobs will have been radically impacted by technology. This is both the World Economic Forum and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. These are predictions from these 2 powerful organizations. The evidence is, as at 2018, was that over 1 million jobs will be lost. However, another 1.7 million jobs will be created. So it's not all doom and gloom. I don't want to bore us with the progress between the first, second, third, and fourth industrial revolution. But one thing I want us to understand is that in each era of change, certain jobs became extinct, while certain jobs were created, and certain jobs that survived that change evolved. The nature of those jobs evolved. So I must state that the jobs of the future are expected to be more machine-powered and data-driven, and this will cut across every industry, every single industry, be it banking, be it hospitality, be it aviation. I currently, work in the marine industry, and one of the major discussions that are being held in our marine industry is automated ships. We've been having these discussions, and vessel owners are discussing how to move, to the next stage of evolution, which is having automated ships. That means you have ships plying the waterways without any crew on board. Rather, you have the offshore control centers that will be controlling these ships, while they are onshore. And this cuts across every industry. I want to state that no industry will be insulated from this. Look at our neighbors there here in Africa, Kenya. Kenya, about 2 months ago, they received about 3 robots. These robots are, I don't know, they perform the job of doctors, nurses, matrons. They do what the doctors call ward rounds, especially patients that they especially aid in the supply of medical care to COVID-19 patients. So these robots, they go around the hospital, observing people that are not wearing their face mask. They do temperature check, they do vitals, they check the patient's vitals, and then there's a screen on the robot so that the doctor remotely can, interface through, via interfacing with that robot, attend to the patients. Here in Nigeria, about 5-6 months ago, I shared a video for those who are on my social media handles of a self-driven car that was tested in Mushin here in Lagos. Driverless car right here in Mushin. And for those that know, Mushin in Lagos State, Mushin the population density is high and there's traffic. So this car was tested self-driven car in Mushin traffic. I mean, the crowd gathered around this vehicle and they were looking for where the driver was. And if here in Nigeria, we've already started prototype testing of self-driven cars right here in Lagos, Nigeria, it's only, so the question is not a question of if, it's a question of when. So these changes are not a matter of if they will come, it's a matter of when they will come. It's inevitable, it's going to happen whether we like it or not. Again, it's not doom and gloom. Like I said earlier on, whilst some jobs will be phased away, new jobs will come up. And these new jobs will be jobs that require human skills, especially in the areas of problem solving, communication, design thinking, emotional intelligence. These are the change in work to expect. Furthermore, it's important to note that as the cost of technology reduces, so will the cost of labor increase. It's predicted that by 2025, an average global labor cost savings of 60% will be achieved on labor costs for organizations that choose to adopt technology. So in other words, technology will save an average of 16% of total cost. So imagine your organization's total cost is 100 million and you are able to save 16 million just by adopting technology. I mean, there's no forward-thinking CEO or MD that would not want to save 16% of his total cost. That's a lot. So as technology improves, becomes more mobile, smarter, faster, and affordable, organizations will be forced to make that, labor technology decision. So enough about the workforce. What will the future workforce be? This is very key, especially to this particular topic. I'm bold to make this prediction. I've made this prediction before and I'm repeating this prediction again. Our roles as HR professionals will undergo an evolution. We are going to no longer be known in the future as just human resource managers. We will be responsible for managing both the human and the machine resources of our organizations. As HR professionals, we're going to see more we're going to see the rise of machine workforce in our company. So we're going to have to manage this interface between our human and our automated workforce. All right. Furthermore, we're going to experience a change from traditional to what we're going to discuss further, contingent workforce models. What do I mean? The workforce of the future will see a change from the traditional organizational employees to what we call joint venture, independent contractors, gig. We're going to see the rise of the gig workforce. For those, the gig economy, to crowdsourcing. We're going to see, like I mentioned earlier, the robots workforce, rise of freelancers, independent contractors. And this is going to fast become the norm. We're, as HR professionals, we're going to have to reimagine our talent models, because as the world becomes more connected and organizations become more nimble, we're going to see a disruption in our talent model. Organizations will have to, and we're going to discuss this in a lot more detail, but I've had this discussion, and even right here in Nigeria, this change has started taking place. For those organizations that are in the tech firms, you find out that your programmers are happier to, for you to employ them as independent contractors. You have a project, you call on them, you set them up as a team, they deliver on the project, and they move on to the next project. And it's very likely that whilst they are working for you, they're also doing multiple gigs with other organizations. So the future of the workforce would move from, oh, I work with so and so company, to, oh, I'm running so and so projects for so and so organizations. Even as HR professionals, we find out that it's becoming increasingly difficult for us to limit employees from moonlighting. Moonlighting being limit employees from holding more than one job, because the future of the workforce is no longer gone are the days where my mom works in one organization for, she received her long service award, they gave her a beautiful plaque, they gave her a beautiful TV, they gave her a beautiful generator, and that was it. I don't know how many employees in this day and age who want to work in one organization for 35 years. I don't know how much of the millennial workforce will be interested in that. So the future of work is disrupted. The workforce is going to be disrupted. There will no longer be that heavy reliance on the traditional organization employees. And finally, in this topic, we'll look at the future of the workplace. So we will need to rethink where work gets done. Work will no longer be where you go to. Work is wherever you find yourself. Work gets done, and work from home at some point in time used to be a nice to have, but really work from home or remote working would become the norm. For those of us who do recruitment, I'm sure right now it's abnormal or really out of it for you to ask a candidate to come physically for an interview, because everybody understands, that work is remote right now. So organizations will need to rethink, the investments they've made in real estate. So this 23-story building, edifice of an office, in the next 5-10 years, will it be necessary? Rather, we're going to see, I keep saying, more nimble organizations. The future offices will just be office hubs where, okay, so you need to have meetings once in a while. This is where everybody just comes to huddle to have their meetings, when the need arises to have physical meetings anyway. So attention of employees, or employers rather, will have to be drawn towards creating connections and communities for your virtual workforce, because the workplace will become no longer collocated but distributed to different locations. More changes that we're going to see is a shift from traditional hierarchical organizations to more flattened matrix project-driven structures. We're going to see a move from fixed working hours to flexible working hours. We're going to see a shift from on-prem solutions to cloud-based solutions. Furthermore, prior to now, email seems to be the primary form of communication. This will change. You now have enterprise resource planning softwares. You have Microsoft. I know Microsoft SharePoint, SASS. Different organizations have different technologies now that enhance better collaboration in the organization. We're also going to see a shift from working from the office to working from anywhere. So employees can work from home office, from coffee shop, from a cab, on your way to the airport, wherever you find yourself, you'll be able to work right from where you are. These are some of the major drivers that would influence these changes we've been talking about. One, the reduction in the price of automation, the rise of big data, the rise of freelancers, the rise of human-machine collaboration skills, AI, artificial intelligence, will reduce the number and change the nature of white-collar jobs. So these are some of the major forces that are going to impact and necessitate this change in the workplace, the workforce, and work. So what are the new realities? The new realities we are walking into is the rise of exponential organizations. Exponential organizations are organizations that are data-driven organizations. So organizations are going to embrace data. We've spoken about this, the unleashed workforce. So you have a workforce that are not bound by the traditional workforce model. So see the growth of freelancing. This is the world of 24-hour everything. There are new platforms. I don't know if you're familiar. There's Fiverr, there's Up and Work. Here in Nigeria, we have Podlancers that I'm aware of. These are platforms where organizations, you need a software developer, to design XYZ for you. You don't need to hire a software developer to do that for you. Just go to Podlancer, go to Fiverr, go to Upwork, and right there, you publish your projects, and then you see different programmers bid for that job. They bid for the job, you give the job to, you agree on rates, and you give the job to your preferred gig employee. You give the gig to that employee, he does the gig, delivers on the gig, and you make payments. And that's the future. That's the future of work. We're going to see that unleashed workforce right there. You have 24-hour everything. Why do you want to hire, a graphics designer when you can have that service, the service of graphics designing on demand? So you're going to have what you call an on-demand workforce. These workforce will break the traditional bounds and constraints of what we used to call our workforce. Technology, talent transformation. I mean, we're going to have to, with this collaboration of man and machine, we're going to have to reimagine, the value of each job. So like I said earlier, jobs whose values, repetitive jobs will be taken over by technology. Ethics. In this new world of work, where everything is connected, organizations will be held to a higher standard of ethics. So we'll look at what's going on all over the world. The Black Lives Matter movement. So, I mean, look at, there was a particular scenario where in a hotel, a particular staff of the hotel, picked on a particular guest because she was Black. She was, swimming in the swimming pool with her kids. And this particular guest of the hotel walked up to that Black guest and asked for her, asked if she was really a guest of the hotel, but she didn't ask any of the other white guests that were in the swimming pool. Because of that singular action, the hotel had to lay off that staff. There was also the pioneer case of the angry Karen, a lady who was not at work. She was in the park walking her dog, and a Black man simply asked her to put her dog on leash. And because the man was Black, she threatened the man that she was going to call the police on him. And that singular action went viral on Twitter. That particular lady lost her job because of that. So employers are held to a higher level of ethics. Not too long ago, the founder of Facebook had to face the US Congress, face a congressional hearing because Facebook had a policy of not fact-checking whatever post and whatever anyone posts on their website. So the Congress was holding Facebook to a higher level of accountability for what goes on in their organizations. So the society, the employees, the new realities, employees and organizations will be held to a higher standard of ethics. How you comport yourself both in and outside of the workplace was going to play a bigger role. I've been saying this earlier on, the nimble enterprise. It's no longer a case of David versus Goliath in this reality, but a case of David with Goliath. How do I mean? Technology is going to reduce barriers of entry into businesses. And then you find out that seemingly small organization, can compete with the large Goliaths due to technology. I mean, during the lockdown, the Eco Hotel started doing food delivery. Food delivery that I'll be expecting. So right now you have Eco Hotel competing with my friend Adora's Kitchen for food delivery. You have my sister Anietie that does soups, Afang Edikaikong, and does delivery. You find her competing with the likes of Radisson Blue Hotels that also do food delivery. Myself and a friend were discussing, and they wanted to order food. So one of them said, oh, let me order from this big company. And the other person said, what do we need to order from this big company from? When there's this lady down the corner that does food delivery as well. So you find out now that small and large is almost a level playing field now between the large organizations and the smaller organizations. I have a friend who runs a logistics company of her own. She owns just 2 bikes. And right now she's competing thanks to technology, she's competing with GoCada, MaxNG, and all the other Goliaths in the industry. Like I said, technology has lowered the barrier of entry. She doesn't own an office. She doesn't own an office anywhere yet, but she has a nimble enterprise. And the large organizations need to now make sure that they are nimble enough to compete in the new landscape. Of course, regulated innovation. I'll discuss this in the next slide, but this new innovation requires some form of regulation. We'll talk about this in front. Then customized employee experience. It is no longer a case of one size fits all. The one-size-fits-all approach towards employee experience is no longer going to cut it. So organizations will need to customize the employee experience to the needs of each different worker, to the needs of the different generations of workforce we have in the organization. What are the recommendations in this new reality? So we're going to have to come up with new labor categories to account for the rise of this alternative work arrangement. So let's bring it practically here in Nigeria. So we're going to see the rise of contingent workforce. By contingent workforce, gig workers, independent contractors, project-based employees. So the question we need to ask is, does our labor law recognize this new workforce? So what benefits will this new workforce be entitled to? As it is currently, our labor law only recognizes a worker that falls within the ambit of the definition of a worker under the Labor Act. And anyone else that does not fall within the ambit of that, the definition of a worker, is treated as an independent contractor. And independent contractors do not have any coverage legally in the Nigerian within the Nigerian labor law. So our labor laws need to really evolve along with to keep up with the pace of change that's taking place in the environment, so that they can remain relevant. Organizations, again, would need to, like I've said over and over again, move away from traditional hierarchical structures to project-based teams. They need to increase incentives for employees that invest in lifelong learning skills and development. Both employers and workers and organization leaders will need to develop an understanding of the changing laws. Practically, so you hire an independent contractor. Typically, if you were an employee, who has an injury or suffers a disability as a result of working from the organization, is going to have coverage under NSITF. If the employee dies in service or towards the service of the organization, is going to be covered by group personal accident and group life insurance. Unfortunately, our the insurance law does not make it mandatory for the organizations to provide insurance coverage for independent contractors. So the question arises, what happens to independent contractors who suffer illness or disability or the loss of life while in service of their employer? What happens to them? What coverage? There's no pension for them because they are not traditional organization employees. So there's no insurance, there's no HMO, no healthcare. So, I mean, there's going to be a requirement of some level of creativity. Okay, as HR professionals, we're going to have to come up, with some level of creative coverage, so that the relationship between the employer and this new form of workforce will be properly catered for. So with this understanding, we're going to talk about employee experience. Just so that we have a common understanding, we'll define employee experience as how employees think and feel during every single touch point of their journey through the company. So from attraction to recruitment to employee relations to learning and development to their retention till their exit. At every touch, each and every one of these touch points, what emotion are they left with? What do they think? How do they feel at each and every point during their journey in the employee life cycle? So let's look at how this experience has evolved through time. So prior to now, there have been 4 stages of this journey so far. Started from the era of utility, productivity, engagement, experience. So during the era of utility, it was a question of what do employees need to do their job? So I mean, Employers simply provided the bare bone tools. They gave the desk, the chair, the phone, the computer. The employee was just a cog in the wheel, nothing more. You just gave the employee exactly what they need to do their job and nothing more. However, during the era of productivity, when the employers saw that, look, they needed to outperform their competitors. So the questions the employer started asking is, okay, so what do we do? What do employees need so that they can work better and faster? So the questions were, okay, they gave, slight improvements so that they could get more out of people. It was a case of the carrot and the donkey. They tried things like employee optimization, repeatable processes, all to get the employee to do more. Then the era of employee engagement, I'm sure many of us will remember this era where employee engagement was the buzzword. Everybody was talking about employee engagement. We had our annual employee engagement surveys. Many of us still do that. The focus was on culture. It was really just an adrenaline shot, nothing more. Companies will have beautiful mission statements, to get buy-in of workforce. So that was the era of employee engagement, and then employee experience. So this era of experience, the major question is, how do we create a company where people want to show up, versus the need to show up? So here, the focus is on culture, technology, space, purposeful design. Is a long-term approach, and the reason for the organization's being. So these are, the evolutionary steps the employee experience journey has gone through. And these are the three basic elements, that cut across employee experience. So the survey was done, and these were the three main drivers of employee experience. Purpose. So employees want to connect with an organization's purpose. They want to see a connection between what they do, how their contributions make a difference to the company, as well as the society. That's where, the rise of CSR, came up, because organizations try to create the bond between themselves and the society so that employees could find, deeper purpose in their belonging to an organization. Furthermore, there's the employer perception or the promise. The earlier session we had today, the speaker went into robust detail on employer branding. Employer branding is such a big deal now. I call employer branding the employer promise. You have purpose, you have the promise. So the employer brand is, what the employer promises current and prospective workforce. So what are the promises the employer makes? How do people see the employer, when compared to other employers? And then finally, culture. So if you call the employer brand the promise, I call the culture the reality. So, the promise to attract employees to the organization is your brand, while the culture is the reality that will keep them. So where there is a correlation between your promise and the reality, that's a case where you say your employer brand and the culture of the employer, where there is a correlation between both of them, then you can say the brand lives true to its promise. So culture is the reality. Another speaker yesterday spoke about, culture. He also spoke in detail. So I'm not going to repeat what has already been said by previous speakers, but, culture really is the reality of what has been promised. So what are the trends in employee experience? Authentic employer branding, it's key. So right now, before employees even consider applying, for vacancies, they want to know who the employer is. They want to know, and and some employees cannot apply for jobs in certain organizations because, you know, the employer brand does not meet up with their expectation. So it becomes very key that in order to attract employees, organizations need to pay a conscious attention to the brand they have out there. So this means that employee experience is now a strategic priority for HR. And really, the employee experience starts from the employer brand. How do people see you out there in the labor market? Do prospective employees view your organization as an employer of choice? How do you, they say if you do not tell your story, if you don't put your story out there yourself, you may not like how others craft your story for you. So whilst this is not an employer branding session, what we need to know is in order to craft a viable employee experience, we need to start right there from, you know, creating an authentic employer brand. You need to have an authentic employer value proposition. You need to push your story out there by whatever means you want to employ to promote your employer brand. This is a survey that was done by LinkedIn on, you know, what different generations prioritize in the job. All generations, from Generation Z, Millennials, X, and Baby Boomers, they all valued inspirational colleagues and culture. Surprisingly, the older generation, the Baby Boomers, Generation X, you know, they place an emphasis or importance on, you know, companies with purposeful missions. Whilst it was most important to the Generation Z and Millennials that they work for organizations, you know, that invest in employee training. So during this period of COVID, when organizations are cutting budgets on training, maybe we should just have this at the back of our minds that, look, you want to attract best-in-class talent, you will still need to find a way of keeping that training budget. Other trends in employee experience that we'll look at for recruitment. I don't know how many of us are aware the use of natural language processing is becoming key right now in recruitment. There's this firm in America that is a recruitment HR consulting firm. They specialize in preparing applicants for interviews with robots. Yeah, that's what they do. Their specialty is in helping candidates beat the robots interviewers. Now, since I keep saying you cannot go in for an interview with the robots the same way you go in for an interview with a human being, because these robots are programmed with algorithms. They are intelligent robots. They can detect your body language. They know the body language we give off when we're lying. They know the body language we give up when we are being, you know, more than economical with the truth, really. So they observe our body language, they observe our mannerisms, and they have predefined range of answers to expect for each question. So you really cannot approach, you know, recruitment the same way. You can't approach an interview the same way you approach a traditional interview with human beings. Predictive analytics is becoming key as organizations leverage on data. You know, leveraging on that same data, you can now do predictive analytics. It's no longer a nice to have. It's a must have for all organizations. We've talked about chatbots. So we've talked about robots, bots, you know, social media recruiting. So now you have, as part of the recruitment process, some organizations audit your social media footprints. I've heard of cases of employees candidates being turned down, losing employment opportunities because of maybe some hate speech they posted on their private social media handles. You know, I know personally of a candidate who, way back in his university days, he was active in student union and politics. And while he was in the student union circle, he put on his Facebook, put a post on his Facebook wall, you know, that he can never work for any of the multinationals here in Nigeria. And graduated, applied for a job, and I don't want to mention the name of the company, started the recruitment process, had gone very far. At the final stage of the recruitment process, you know, the final interview, they asked him, why do you want to work for us? And he gave, you know, typical answer, oh, your organization is this, is that, has a good brand, has this, has that. And they say, oh, this is interesting. But when you were in school, you promised, you vowed that you would never work for an organization like us. And that's how the candidate lost the job. In onboarding, we're going to see pre-boarding, continuous onboarding. So pre-boarding really is, so onboarding starts, you know, from when the employee signs the offer letter to the end of the, no, sorry, from when the employee resumes till the end of the induction program. Pre-boarding starts from the moment the employee signs the offer letter up until when they resume. Now, this is a very sensitive period for employees because I know of, in recruitment, I've had, you know, a scenario where a candidate, after having signed the offer letter, a couple of days to resumption, sends an email that he's turning down the offer and will not be able to resume with a particular organization. You know, a lot of that's really, we may not realize, but it's a really sensitive period for candidates, because that's the period where, you know, most likely they've tendered their resignation where they are, and they are yet to resume, you know, where in the new organization. So some candidates, you know, have, I would say withdrawal syndromes, or, you know, sometimes they suffer from a case of what we call buyer's remorse. You know, so this is a really sensitive period, you know, that is key to the overall employee experience. So there are engagement activities you can put in place to establish that bond even before they resume. Is very key in painting the picture, overall picture of the employee experience. We've said it before that personalization, one size will not fit all. So there's this company, there's a case study, Hormel Foods. They adopted gamification as part of their onboarding process. So as part of their onboarding strategy, they used, you know, a gamified platform called Discovery Map, you know, that allowed their new hires to learn all the information about the company quite quickly. And, you know, this was aided through technology. Continuous onboarding. So onboarding does not end, you know, at the culmination of the induction period. Onboarding should be continuous, you know, to give the employee an overall good experience. Employee relations, this is very key. Workplace safety will be in the spotlight. So I don't know how many of us have seen different cases of, I know the former CEO of Uber stepped down because of allegation of sexual harassment. Facebook employees had a down tool. They down tools, even though they were working from home, they all down tools because Facebook did not take a strong stand to protect their Black workforce that were in the minority. So employees will be expecting employers to take a much stronger stance with regards to issues of sexual harassment, diversity and inclusion, racism, So these are physical and verbal abuse. These are stands that in order to create a good employee experience, we will have to bring to the limelight. Organizations will now need to take a much stronger, firmer stance on these issues. I'd said this earlier on, we will be responsible for managing the relationship between our human and our machine workforce. There will be an increased reliance on metrics and analytics. And we need to prevent burnout. So because employees can work from home, because we live in the era now of 24-hour everything, we still need to bear in mind that employees do not need to be overworked. Simply because they can now work from wherever they are doesn't mean we cannot recognize that burnout is still a key factor to pay attention to. Improving gender diversity, investing in mental health, especially this disconnected workforce. So sometimes right now, it's very key to pay attention to mental health. I said this before, employers will need to take a stand on social issues. The Black Lives Matter movement, many organizations have taken a firm stand on these social issues. I mentioned this earlier, loneliness of remote workers. So because, especially the older workforce, they're adapting to this new remote work may be a slow learning curve for them. So employers need to address, make sure that even though employees are working from different locations, they still feel connected. In development, employee development, of course, upskilling the workforce for this new era becomes key. So employers need to find creative ways to close these skill gaps. Like I said, some jobs are going to go, new jobs are going to arise. So the competency requirements for the old era and the new era will be completely different. So we need to be ready to actively support the workforce in upskilling for this new era. There will be an increase in demand for soft skills. Why? Because a lot of the technical hard skills will be automated by machines. The machines can do analytical tasks 10 times better than the greatest human mind. However, one thing the machines will never be able to do, and problem-solving skills, emotional intelligence, these are things that will forever remain the humane domain. Machines will never be able to replicate these particular competency sets. So those are the skill sets that we would need to focus on. High capital investments in learning management systems, experiential learning platforms. You need to train the workforce for the gig economy. So with this growing number of temporary contracts and gig employees, organizations need to train these new type of workers. So I keep saying, let's not try to be pouring new wine into old wineskins. We need to help reorientate our workforce to prepare for this new workplace, really. Data literacy is a given. For employee retention, while this is not a performance management discussion, but I must say that the era of the annual, biannual performance appraisals is becoming a thing of the past. So this is the era of continuous performance management. It's every day, every moment, it's no longer an annual or biannual process. So performance management is continuous process. Benefits becomes also personalized. So we now have contingent workforce. We need to realign our benefits program to align with the needs of the new workforce. So the one-size-fits-all or static benefits and bonus programs may no longer be applicable. So for each worker or for each contingent worker, you may need to customize the benefits package to suit the needs of that particular worker. to ensure that everyone has an employee experience that resonates, with them. So these are some popular analytics practices, the key ones that we need to make mention of: employee performance, workforce planning, skill gaps analysis, and, evaluating your recruitment channels. These are the key analytic tools that will be relevant, in the next 5 years. So what is next? To wrap it up, I can say that we looked at the evolution of employee experience, from utility to performance to engagement to experience. The next step in this employee management is the employee journey. So, it's no longer just employee experience. The future is no longer just going to be centered around employee experience. The future is going to be focused on the employee journey as a whole. This employee journey will be a collection of experiences. So a collection of all the experiences the employee has had, prior to joining, whilst in the organization, when he left. This whole experience makes up the overall and overarching employee journey. Bear in mind that the employee journey of the future will not be fixated in one organization as a traditional employee. It's going to be a combination of, his experience doing different gigs in different organizations. So the employee journey that's really the future. That's the next evolution in employee management. So, like I always say, the employee experience on the final note shapes the employee journey. So on this note, I like to say, or I like to ask, I hope with these few words of mine, I've been able to convince you and not to confuse you about the employee, the evolution of the employee experience. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you for that session. How was the session?
Okay.
Feedback.
Comfort is asking me to summarize the slide before employee journey management.
Okay.
Is it this slide? Is it this one? Which one? Is it this one or this one? This is employee journey. So which slide in particular? Okay, so let me just summarize both quickly. Okay, so this particular slide is talking about, hold on, this is blocking me. Okay, so this particular slide is talking about the popular analytics practices that will remain relevant today and the next 5 years. So the first one that we need to pay, the one that is most relevant now and will be relevant in the next 5 years will be metrics that talk about employee performance. Bear in mind that we are moving away from the era of annual, biannual performance management to continuous performance management. So you need to invest in metrics. You need to put in metrics that measure employee performance on a continuous basis. Of course, strategic workforce planning will become and remain relevant because workforce models are changing. Organizations need to plan for their traditional and their contingent workforce. Skill gaps will remain key and vital because the competency requirements will change. All right, and the next slide talks about, yeah, that's it. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Fantastic. We've gotten some feedback. Someone said I thought it was going to be boring, but you really did justice to it. Thank you. Why did you have that thought,
Right. Elizabeth, thank you for that. I'm glad I didn't bore you.
Lovely session, great insights on building employee experience along the HR value chain. Thank you very much. There was a question earlier in your presentation from YouTube. Kende
Okay.
is asking, sometimes during the time between receiving the new offer and tending of resignation letter, the employee may have been given counter offer, which is why they turned down the new offer. Is this okay? I'm not sure you get.
Yes, I get what she's talking about. Where we're discussing pre-boarding. So yes, you're quite correct. Employee can take another job offer if he's not engaged. That's where pre-boarding comes in. From the moment the employee accepts your offer up until when they resume, that timeline is where pre-boarding activities are supposed to fill in, because that's a period where sometimes the employee feels like they're in limbo. You do not just ghost an employee. You don't just ghost the candidate the moment he has accepted the offer, and then you expect the candidate to just feel so comfortable to walk into your office on his resumption day. So HR thoughts leaders have, looked at these occurrences and said, look, that's where pre-boarding came in. Engagement does not start from when they resume. It commences from when they've signed that offer. That's where pre-boarding kicks off. I hope that addresses it.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's take more questions. You can use the Q&A feature to ask a question, or if you like to ask a question live, if you want us to enable you to talk, just raise your hand so I can enable you from here, and then we'll take your questions. So please send in your questions. We have some minutes more to take some questions, so please.
All right, so Elizabeth asked the question on continuous performance management. Yeah, so I'll just touch briefly on that because it's not something we could this is a long drawn out discussion, but I'll say this: thought leaders all over the world are all in agreement on this particular issue, and everyone's thoughts align that, look, the era of annual and biannual performance appraisals is fast becoming history. The world is changing at the speed of thought. I'm going to ask this question. For organizations that set KPI at the beginning of this year, like the KPIs you set January 2nd, 2020, as a result of COVID, are those KPIs still valid? Elizabeth Kings, that's a question for you. The KPIs you set for your team prior to COVID, prior to the lockdown, prior to everything that happened this year, are they still valid now? As we speak, as we were in the second half of 2020, a lot of organizations that I know of, many of them have had to do mid-year strategy sessions so that they can re-strategize, so that they can reset their goals, so that they can cascade these goals further to employees, so that employees can now rejig their KPIs for the end of year appraisal. Some organizations I know had to scrap the mid-year appraisal because the goals that were agreed on prior to this appraisal period are no longer relevant to the business. COVID happened. So that just gives credence to the fact that, look, the annual, biannual performance appraisal is history. Continuous, in fact, prior to your appraisal, right, you should know how you're faring. Prior to your mid-year or full-year appraisal, you should know how you are faring. So state-of-the-art performance management systems softwares, now have room for they have modules that, are built around continuous performance management. So I hope that is able to start the thought process, even though it will not address that question in full, but that's it.
Okay, let's take some. There's a question here. How do HR ensure that a client relationship employee is engaged in this era of work from home?
Okay, how do you ensure all employees are engaged in this era of work from home?
No, how do you ensure that a client relationship employee, so that's the role of the employee, client relationship, is engaged in this era of work from home?
Okay, I see where that question is coming from, because typically a client relationship, an employee tasked with client relationship management will typically have KPIs centered around, visits, attending events, office visits, social visits, of course, the game has changed. With this era of social distancing, you cannot have a KPI on how many office visits, how many social visits did you have with X number of clients, because who wants you to visit them right now? So you need to rethink the KPIs to ensure that that person is engaged. And you need to rethink the KPIs in context of the new reality. So since you're not having physical visits, you cannot visit the office physically. How many online meetings did you have with the clients? All right. So these are new KPIs. I probably need to sit down and we'll think it through, but you need to rejig the client relationship managers' KPIs, as a result of working from home. There are tons of client engaging activities that you could put in place to engage your clients. You could do newsletters. I know some organizations that start sending their clients crossword puzzles with prizes, gift prizes for any of their clients that fill the crossword puzzles and send back. I mean, there are tons of creative client relationship or client engagement activities you could put in place in this era of working from home.
Okay, great. Let me take this from Adenike. It says, thank you for your detailed presentation. Will it be meaningful to run PIP continuously as we hope to continuously manage performances? Having a period PIP for an underperforming employee can really be tedious, not to mention a continuous plan.
Oh yeah, I feel you. Well, while performance management is continuous, PIP cannot be continuous. It's not, right now, it's not practically feasible for you to have a continuous cycle of PIP. So there is the period where improvements is supposed to have taken place, and there's a period where you will need to assess if improvement has taken place. So performance management may be continuous, but your performance improvement plan cannot be continuous. Now, it's not practical to have the PIP run on a continuous. I feel you when you say it's tedious enough on a terms basis, not talk of doing it on a continuous. It's not practical to do it on a continuous basis, but the performance management process will be continuous, but the improvement plan will still be for a period. You need to observe performance for a period to see if improvement has occurred or not, and then you take a decision at the end of that period.
Okay. T.T. Williams, you raised the hand. Go ahead with your question.
All right, thank you very much, sir. It's been quite an insightful course, and I really enjoyed it. But I would like to ask, as a young professional who is venturing into the HR career, I'd like to know some of the HR software that could be useful or that is useful. Thank you.
Right, so HR software is tHRive. I do not want to really promote any brand, but I'll tell you this, any organization that has a HR software will train you on how to use their HR software, because I mean, there's SAP, there's Microsoft, there's There are tons. There are locally made ones right here. So it's unfair, really, for me to endorse anyone in particular. I've used SAP. I'm using SAP at the moment. I've used Microsoft as well. So each one has their perks, but the truth is these softwares are becoming so gone are the days. I mean, way back like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, when you want to learn how to use a HR software, it's like you're learning programming. But right now, most of the new HR softwares are as easy as using Facebook. They're that easy. The user interface are, very, very easy to use. Very, very navigating them. Like I said, it's as easy as navigating Facebook or Twitter or whatever other social media platform it is you're familiar with. So they are no-brainers right now. 10 years ago, you need to take a training, to be able to use this. In fact, companies used to send their staff to South Africa, Dubai, to learn how to use the software. But right now, user interfaces are much more, user-friendly. That's the word. They are user-friendly. If you can use Zoom and you can use Facebook, trust me, you'll be able to use almost any HR software out there today.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. A question from Emilomo. She says, if you can't afford state-of-the-art performance management systems, what approach can be adopted for frequent performance appraisals?
Microsoft Excel.
Okay.
I tell you, Microsoft Excel it has been saving lives since 1960. That's what I can say. If you cannot afford any state-of-the-art software, there's no budget yet for it. Microsoft Excel is the best place to start. In fact, I remember even before HR softwares became this intuitive, I was using HR softwares and still using Microsoft Excel. But right now, the HR softwares out there, they are much more intuitive, much more intelligent. They can do a lot more. The new HR softwares, I call them, they are like Microsoft Excel on steroids. But Microsoft Excel is a wonderful place to start.
Okay, great. Another one on how do we manage redundancy among team members?
Redundancy. Like I said, see, with this paradigm shift, redundancies are bound to happen. In fact, it's not if redundancies will happen. When the redundant, they will happen. Why would they happen? Because change has happened. Like I said, 1 million jobs are going to be declared redundant over the next 5 years. However, 1.7 million jobs are going to arise. So when it's not if redundancies happen, when the redundancies happen, you declare the redundancies. Sorry, but that's what it is. These redundancies will happen. So when they happen, let them happen. But what we can do is prepare our teams for these redundancies. I've had previous discussions on the future of work. I think somebody else is going to talk about the future of work next week. So I'm sure that the speaker will be able to enlighten us on the jobs that will become redundant in the future. There are certain job families that are going to go extinct. It's just that's what will happen. So if anyone finds themselves in any of the job families that will be redundant in the short to mid-term, they need to upskill. Like they say, you need to shape in or shape out. The only constant thing in life is change. So change is about to happen. So anyone who is not prepared for this change will be swept away by the winds of change.
Thank you, Patrick. The question here from Joy. While the evolution of work is changing, especially in the tech space, however, some small business owners and traditional baby boomer CEO/managers still struggle with this change, especially micromanaging, even with COVID-19. The lack of adequate infrastructure such as lights, internet, doesn't make employee experience/work not so good. So what can HR do to manage employee experience this period, especially while on the job?
Beautiful, practical question. I mean, I know, so I keep talking to a lot of my colleagues and we share the ideas on what different companies are doing to manage, productivity, especially during this COVID-19 period. So you had organizations that converted, so your pay structure is made up of basic housing, transport. I know of some organizations that reworked their pay. So that transport element of employee pay, since employees are no longer commuting to and fro from the office, they transferred it to data, internet and data allowance. I know of a particular company, I'm not going to mention names, it's a tech company. So they have their programmers working from different remote locations in order to avoid the challenges that their programmers were having with working remotely, saying, oh, NEPA took light, we've not had light for the past 4 or 5 days, I've not been able to charge my laptop, so I've not been able to work. You know what the company did? They bought solar inverters for those their programmers. They did that. And some companies did it as ex gratia, as a benefit. Some companies did it as made it a deductible from the employee's pay. So these are different. What I'm just going to say is that you're going to have to be creative in this era where the answers are not out there. We're going to have to think of, come up with out of the box ideas to help our organizations navigate through these uncertain and unprecedented times. So that's where our mettle as HR professionals are going to come to play. So, these are programmers, they're working remotely, they're working from home, yet because of NEPA, they're not being able to be productive. Okay, fine. Employees are working remotely, so they now need internet. So looking at your organization budget, do you want to create a data allowance? I mean, we have different allowances in our pay structure that, utility, entertainment, clothing, feeding. Why don't you transform one of them to data allowance? So employees know that they do not have an excuse not to be online anymore. I had a discussion with my MD at some point in time, and we're discussing at some point whether we're going to buy modems, internet modems for all our employees, so that everybody has data, to do their job at every point in time. So you're just going to have to be creative based on your organization's individual context. Be creative and help your organization come up with ideas, to help your organization navigate through these uncertain and unprecedented times.
Okay, there are like 5 more questions thereabouts. Let's just quickly run through them. I think Kendi was trying to clarify an earlier question. She says, my question is it okay to accept counter offer after dropping a resignation letter?
Sorry, come again.
Our question is it okay to accept counter offer after dropping a resignation letter?
Yes, why not?
Okay.
Of course. If your organization makes you a counter offer, you weigh the pros and the cons of the counter offer from your organization and the offer you've received from your prospective employer. So that's it. So long as your employer will not victimize you for wanting to leave. If there's that trust between you and your current employer that, oh, because I accepted your counter offer, doesn't mean that you will victimize me for wanting to leave. So employers, if the employer values you enough to make you a counter offer, which is better than the offer you've received from, the new employer, quote and unquote, why can't you? The only question mark is you need to ensure that, because I've seen cases where employees accepted the counter offer from their current employer only for the employer to let them go a couple of months later. Some employers can be vindictive. Like they don't want you to leave them. They want to be the one to initiate the exit. So they will make you the counter offer, keep you, then a couple of months later, they initiate the exit termination process. So just be careful. If that trust is there, then go ahead, accept the counter offer.
Okay, great. Asuko Effiong is asking, thanks so much, sir, for this session. It's an eye-opener for the future. Looking at the future impacts of workforce evolution, what should be the focus of, what should be the focus of fresh graduates, fresh job seekers? Because I feel expertise, experience will be a major in recruitment selection process. I don't know if you get that.
Okay, so what should fresh job seekers focus on, right? Since
yes.
So if you remember, you recall that I said 1.7 million new jobs are going to arise. It's not within the context of my own discussion to go into the details of the future jobs that will be arising. I know there's a speaker who is going to talk next week about the future of work. I am positive that within the content of that discussion, that speaker next week would highlight the new jobs that are going to arise over the next 5 to 10 years. That speaker would highlight the new competencies and skill sets that are required of the workers that would be able to thrive in the future of work. I could not go into that detail because it is not part of the context of my own discussion. But what you're asking is within the context of what will be discussed next week. So if you tune in next week, I'm sure Jide will give you the details of that later. There's a speaker next week who is going to talk about the future of work. So that speaker would highlight the jobs, the roles that would evolve in the future, the roles that will arise in the future, and the roles that will be extinct in the future. But I can tell you certain jobs are not going to exist in the future. I'm telling you that for free. I guarantee you certain jobs will not exist anymore, and certain jobs that do not exist now will exist in the future. And certain jobs that exist today will change, will no longer be the same in the future. So you need to understand what those jobs are and prepare for those jobs. They say when opportunity meets preparation, success is inevitable. So you will succeed by preparing for the opportunities of tomorrow today.
Yes, thanks for highlighting that. So the session you're talking about is HR and the future of work is going to take place next Saturday, August 8th by 9 a.m. Nigerian time. It's going to be taken by Fabian Amusan. So please join in for that. I guess that also answers the question from Eunice. She's asking what kind of jobs can go redundant in this era. So please join in for that session. We're going to be looking at the new jobs that will emerge and those that will go redundant. So there's another question here. How do you monitor your team's work and keep team well engaged? I think you might have answered that before, but just quickly go over it again.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to be practical, especially, so right now, not all my team members come to work every day. So We are currently running a hybrid schedule where some come to work, some work from home, and it's a shift, it's a rota shift basis. So I have daily reports, that my team members, whether you're working from the office, whether you're working from home, I have weekly reports they send, so we track progress on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So we have our weekly reports, we have our monthly performance reviews, we have then individually for all my team members, we have our daily reports. So they send me their reports at the close of business every day, highlighting all the things they did, and I give immediate feedback. Could you focus on close?
Hello, are you there? Hello, Patrick.
Hello, sorry, did you, so like I said, I have my daily and weekly reports. And that's what I use to track progress of my team members.
Okay, great, thank you. Let me see. Are there any more questions? Okay, someone wants to speak here. Grace Adebite, you have permission to speak now if you have a question.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir, for your presentation. I just got something at the last line that I just want to argue, or let's debate it, sir. You said something about counter offers, but I've read a lot in articles that, for example, if you have a counter offer from your current place of work due to the fact that you have another job, that is best to usually go out. If you are that important, give them a year, 6 months, give them a year, just give them a few years, they will come back to haunt you if they want it. Because that when you go out, no knowledge is lost. You're seeing another work culture. You're seeing another way a company is doing things, and it's also going to be a learning point for you. That never accept a counter offer. If, for example, you come back to the organization, if the company is supposed to fire people due to the fact that the company can't, like in this recession period, that your name will be the first because initially you wanted to go, and then it's a lose-lose situation. So that's my own take about the counter offer.
Grace, you're correct. Everything you've said is 100% correct. I do not disagree with you. Mm. If you remember, I said you can accept the counter offer on the ground, so long as you are sure you are not going to be victimized for it in future. Mm-hmm. That's what I said. As long as you're sure there won't be any future victimization, go ahead. On one hand, the fact that they made you a counter offer means that you are important enough for them to want to retain you. There are some employees that when they inform management of their intention to leave, the management is saying good riddance to bad rubbish. However, if you are important enough for them to make you a counter offer, there is the other side that the devil is better than the angel you don't. Although I personally, if I make up my mind to leave, nothing is going to make me turn back. I will weigh my options. And once I open that door, I'm going to walk through it and I'm not coming back. I'll just go. But that's me. There's no one size fits all. I've seen organizations that made sound counter offers with the intention of keeping those employees. What of organizations that they know purposely that they are underpaying a particular employee, but they are capitalizing on the fact that the employee doesn't know. And the moment the employee realizes that, look, I can get a better deal out there, they quickly make an offer that matches what is out there or even is better than what is out there. They were just waiting for the employee to wake up. So just weigh your options. There's no one size fits all, but everything you said, Grace, is 100% correct. I agree with you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. Just a couple of more questions in the chat session there. Adenike is asking, should we be worried about employees' home ergonomics?
Yes. Adenike, that's a beautiful question, a very beautiful question. I was having a discussion with a colleague, and it was a funny discussion. So the colleague was complaining of back pain. Why was my professional colleague complaining of back pain? Because she's been working from home, and so because she's not used to having an office in her home, so she sits on a plastic chair and has a plastic table at home. Of course, a chair, you cannot compare a plastic chair to the swivel chair you sit on, in the office that is ergonomically designed for you to sit, 8 hours at a stretch. You're not designed to sit in a plastic chair for 8 hours. It's not comfortable. So even I was just discussing with my wife 2 days ago that, look, we need to get more ergonomic chairs. I probably need to buy one of the ergonomic chairs I use in the office right here at home, because this work from home is obviously a genie that has come out of the bottle and is not going back in. So a proactive organization that puts employee experience that places a premium on it can consider, oh, look, help all organizations buy ergonomic chairs, so that they can ease their work from home experience. So yeah, that's a very, 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 very good question. Very good points raised.
Okay. I think there's another question from Elizabeth. She says, what activities would you recommend for engaging a candidate during the waiting period before resumption to prevent candidates turning down offer?
Wow, that's a very, very practical question. So there are tons of activities. So I shared a case study, the organization that has gamification. So they gamify their entire onboarding process, so I mean, practically, I know there's a particular organization I worked with. From the moment I sent my offer letter, prior to my resumption, my line manager had already started engaging me, sent me articles to read. I was supposed to manage the tHRive of the organization. So, said, oh, look, in order to help me hit the ground running, sent me a couple of links, sent me the entire manual of the tHRive, since I had not managed an ERP prior to then. So he sent me like 900 pages of the tHRive, for me to read, so that once I resume, I can hit the ground running, so to speak. Organizations send the employee handbook to the employee, prior to his resumption. So the employee resumes having already familiarized himself with the employee handbook and all the policies, of the organization in question. So there are tons and tons of creative activities that you could put in place to engage your employees prior to their resumption.
Fantastic. Let me see. I don't think we have any other question. Okay, just a contribution from Sean Oyebade. She says, I think about the counter offer question. I think it's an individual choice. If the employee decides to take a counter offer, it's his or her choice. The individual must weigh what's more important to them. Thank you for that contribution. Thank you, Patrick, for sharing from your wealth of experience. Thank you for the practical and in-depth session. I'm sure we all got value. Let me know how this session was. I trust you all got some insight that you can take to improve your employee experience at your places of work. Thank you again for joining. Thank you to all those that joined all the 6 sessions this weekend. You all are the real MVP. Thank you very much. This is the last session for today. Join us again next weekend. There will be another 6 sessions next weekend. Saturday 3 sessions, Sunday 3 sessions. Like I advised in the previous session, please join the Telegram channel for live updates of when a session starts. So when we go live, you get a notification there so that you can easily join. I know a lot of us don't have a good relationship with our email, especially on weekends. So Telegram is a pretty quick way to just notify you. Yes, we send emails, but I think Telegram works better. So please, if you can, it's a Telegram channel. It's not a group. There are no spams. Nobody will be able to view your contacts, so that can't be reviewed. And it's just for us. It's only the organizers that can post in that channel to give updates about this conference. So please feel free to join the channel to get live updates and other information about this conference. Thanks again for joining. Thank you, Patrick, for sharing. Yes, Patrick has dropped his details in the chat session if you want to reach him. Yes, thank you, Grace, for joining. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Adenike. Okay, the link is actually on the screen. Is the last line, but let me just type it in the chat box here. So this is the link to the Telegram channel. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Omotola. Thank you, Felicia. It's been great having you all here. Okay, thanks. So please. Okay, thank you all. I think that'll be it. I don't think we have any more questions. Thank you again, Patrick.
Thank you, Jide, for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everybody. It's been a wonderful, wonderful time out. Thank you.
Great. Have a great week ahead. Try and apply some of the learnings here that you got over the weekend. If you want to see change in your organization, you have to be that change agent. So some of the things we've shared here, try to apply it, because that's the whole essence of learning a new thing. And our goal here is to not just help you improve in your career, but also to help to transform the organizations that you serve. So looking forward to get feedback on some of the things you do at work. We'll be happy to receive some feedback about that. Thank you all for joining again. Antonia, thank you. See you again next Saturday. Have a great week ahead. Thank you, Sylvia, for joining. Thank you, Motoda. Thank you, Doreen, Victor. Harriet, thank you. Precious, thank you. See you again next weekend. Please take note of the attendance code as usual for your recertification credits and certification of completion. Thank you, Philip. You're welcome, Bolani. Thank you for joining.